Hello and welcome to another episode of yet another retro channel. Today you see a Commodore 64 motherboard on the bench. This is a 250407 board, revision B. Probably one of the most common boards out there, one of the oldest boards out there. And what are we doing with it today? Well, I'm getting ready to start a C64 Repairathon, and to do that, there are tools that you need, or tools that would be useful. Don't necessarily need them. Some of the other YouTubers out there have these things, and I'm a little jealous. In particular, Mr. Adrian Black. Hello, Adrian. Has what he calls his ZIF 64, along with Charm and Charisma, neither of which I can get. However, the ZIF 64 I can. So what I'm going to do today is I'm taking this, which is one of the boards that I have sitting around waiting to be repaired. This one has no case, no keyboard. I do have cases and keyboards that I could marry up with it, with the other boards that I have that are bare boards. But this one I think I'm going to go ahead and turn into my ZIF 64. Now, this board is not 100% running. If I run the diagnostic cartridge with the full harness, it reports that U1, one of the two CIAs, along with the keyboard and user port that are controlled by that CIA, are not working, and the SID sounds like crap. So I'm going to start today by removing the CIA and the SID. They're both soldered directly to the board. The only chips on this board that are already socketed are the kernel ROM and the VIC2. I will still have to remove those sockets as well, though, to install ZIFs. But for now, I'm going to start with the CIA and the SID so we can get this board 100% working. And then we'll go on to adding ZIF sockets for the major ICs. I will only be able to ZIF one of the CIAs because there's not space to ZIF two of them. One of the ROMs, I'll go ahead and ZIF. I'll ZIF the CPU, the PLA, the SID, the VIC2, and one of the RAM chips. And that will give me the ability to test when I'm working on repairing other C64s. I'll be able to pull those big chips out of there and drop them into this board to see if they work individually. That's one of the best ways you can test when you're working on repairing a board, is to have a working board that you can put individual chips into to make sure that they function. And that's why I'm jealous of Mr. Black's ZIF 64. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and begin removing the CIA and the SID. To do this, I've got a Yihua 948 solder sucker. So I run mine a little hotter than most folks. I run mine at 400 degrees, and that seems to do a very good job for me, as long as I make sure to keep the nozzle clean. Oh, that one didn't work. This CIA might be a problem, as the pins have been cut very short. I tend to work in a diagonal pattern so as not to heat up any one section of the chip or the board for too long. Wow. I'm going to have to add some solder to these. We'll just put some fresh solder on the pins. That'll help the thermal conductivity. So Yeah, these pins have been cut right down to the board. I'm going to make this a difficult process. See if that improves anything for the desoldering gun. Hopefully that'll allow a little more thermal transfer. Yeah, it's doing a little better. Normally I'd be giving these a little wiggle as I did them to help loosen up the legs. However, since the legs are not protruding through the back of this board virtually at all, if I tried to do that, I would just knock the desoldering gun off the target via. Okay, those all look about as good as I can get them from the back side of the board. I am also fond of the hot air method for lifting chips from the top side of the board. Just have to be careful here on this CIA because of the keyboard connector. I want to melt that. And out she comes. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. Camera probably won't focus, but no, camera's not going to refocus. Sorry. I was going to show you how short those pins are. Those are extremely short. But examining the board, No lifted traces on the front. Everything's good on the back. Just going to give that a little scrub with some IPA. Lovely. All right. Now for the SID. Let's see. Are we in the same shape with the SID as we were with the CIA? Yep, just as bad. Almost smooth to the touch. So we're going to have to add solder to these. You can see there was some rework here. That's a socket added for that kernel that's on the other side. But let's go ahead and get some additional solder on these pads. Like I said, I do like to try to keep this nozzle clear. Give that a quick clean. And then start taking out the SID. Okay. All right. Time for Mr. Hot Air Gun again. Yep. Okay. And again, wow, how short those legs are. Phew. I'm a little concerned about the other chips. When I pulled them to put them in ZIF sockets, ZIF socket may not hold them with their legs that short. So we may have an issue. I did notice when I was working on this that this ROM chip was barely holding in the socket, but yeah, this was pretty short too. So it looks like this was pulled and replaced and a socket, but those legs are barely there. That's a double wipe socket, which holds better than a single wipe, but Still not great. So give this a little look-see. Everything looks good on the front side and on the back side. So give that a little scrub-a-dub with the IPA. You're going to notice I'm using lots of techniques from lots of different YouTubers. I pick and choose, cherry pick my favorites that I think give me the best possibility of success. So, let me grab some ZIF sockets. Okay, we'll need a 40. That capacitor is going to be a problem. That one right there. I think I'm probably going to have to move him to the bottom of the board. Fortunately, ceramic disc capacitors are not polarized. Doesn't matter what orientation I put them in. We can pop this little guy on the bottom. Okay. Now let's see if we can get that to seat properly. There we go. All those pins are coming through, so we're good. Now, a soldering montage. Did I bend a pin? May have bent a pin. Not good. Yep, there's no pin in that via, so I bent it. Oh, this fun. Yep. Sure did. Let's fix him. And see if we can seat it correctly this time. All right. Yeah, everybody's coming through this time. So, try that again. Cue the soldering montage. Okay. Little inspection. Yeah, all the joints look good and I don't see any bridges. Okay. Oh. ZIF socket number 1 is in place. For now, I'm going to see if this short-legged CIA, it does hold it. So we'll use that for now, as it works apart from a couple of things. And like I said, it is possible that the short legs were causing that problem. So I'm going to test with that back in. So let's find us a 28 pin. Okay. Let's see what we have for, yeah. We have another capacitor that has to go. I don't know why people want these bypass capacitors so close to the chips they're protecting. It's not like the distance would render them useless or anything, is it? I'm being facetious. I know you want them as close to the chip as possible for the best results. Okay. There we go. Finally. And we have all the pins. Good. Cue that lovely fast forward. Little inspection again. Making sure all the pins are connected and we don't see any solder bridges. Nope, good to go. So again, I'm going to drop this SID chip in. This one does not work correctly. It works to an extent. We will get the diagnostic cartridge and harness back out. Diagnostic cartridge. And this version of the harness. I know this isn't as pretty as Sven's, but it gets the job done. Now, I don't expect this to actually correct the problem with the CIA, but considering how badly shortened those legs were, it's possible. Let's switch over for you so you can see the results, and connect video, and where is the plug? Oh, there it is. My homebrew power supply, and see what we get. Oh, turn on my homebrew power supply and then see what we get. We're getting a black screen. So either those legs are too short for the ZIF sockets, or I didn't get these soldered in correctly. So let's try reseating. Yeah, something's not good there. These short legs are definitely causing an issue. Yeah, that SID's not going to stay. We're going to have to drop that. Try it with just the CIA. Yeah, it doesn't like the CIA in that socket either. So I'm going to have to see if I can find replacements. Be back shortly. Okay, I'm back. I have a couple 6526s I can try. Take a look at this one. This one has nice, fresh, clean pins. Splayed as if it were new. I know it's not. I think I probably got these from China, so we'll see. Drop that CIA in there. Give it another shot. Well, it's running. So the CIA didn't kill it. Let's see what results we get. Nope. Well, it's possible that I don't have that ZIF socket, but we're going to try another CIA. That's probably another Chinese special. We'll give this one a shot. Control port. I'm going to assume the control port is something other than the CIA, since that CIA is showing as good otherwise. Of course, the SID is showing as bad because we don't have one in here. Now, let me go ahead. The only spare SID I have around is an ARM SID. So let's drop that in here and see what we get with the ARM SID. I think my very uneducated opinion is that the arm SID seems to be, to me, seems to be the best of the SID replacements. If I can't get an actual SID, I will probably stick to arm SIDs. And with the arm SID in place, everything passes. Well, that's a good start. It's late at night and I'm going to go ahead and go to bed, and I will pick this up tomorrow where I'll finish pulling chips and installing ZIF sockets. So, good night for now, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Well, welcome back, everybody. It is not the next day, it's the day after that. This was a more in-depth process than I was actually anticipating, more complicated. But I did, well, what I did was I went ahead and did all the work, so you didn't have to watch a bunch of silly desoldering and soldering montages. But I did learn quite a lot through this process, I will say. Among the things I learned, first of all, if on a 250407 board you intend to put ZIF sockets on both the SID and the PLA, you can't put them both facing the right side up. If you do that, then the lock lever for the SID chip would hit the PLA, so I had to mount that one upside down. The second thing I learned is that to do this, to put ZIF sockets in all these, they're so much larger than the actual footprint of the chip that you end up having to move a lot of components to the bottom of the board. So you can see this, all these two rather, this, and this all had to be moved to the bottom of the board to make room for the ZIF sockets. So that was fun. Other things I learned is that I'm capable of making mistakes. Obviously, I did damage a trace adjacent to the memory chip that I was desoldering. I wasn't actually soldering to a pad on that trace, but I was working right next to it, and apparently I scratched it and broke it. So I had to put a little bodge there. That's still waiting on some solder mask to hold it down and protect it in the future. I've got to do that yet. What else? In this process, you can, in some way, kill a CPU. The CPU that was in this board, the 6510 here, is now bad. It was working, and now it's dead. So, lucky me. I also learned that I had several bad spares in my stockpile. These two in particular are 6526s. They did not work. Both of them, when you run the diagnostics cartridge with them in, the timers are wrong, which is a quick indication that they fail. And then as the test runs, the keyboard fails, the user port fails, and it'll come back and tell you that these are bad. So I've tested these thoroughly, and they are bad chips. So my stockpile just went down a bit. What else have I learned? Let's see. The chips because these chips their legs were trimmed so close to the board, they are so short that some of them do not work in ZIF sockets. I thought that might be the problem with the CPU, but that wasn't the case. What I found was that those chips, if you insert them into one of these sockets with the milled holes, these will hold and make good contact with those short legs. So what I had to do, for instance, for the PLA, it's in a socket. The character generator ROM and the basic ROM are both in sockets. Well, actually, the kernel ROM is as well. So those chips, if you find that you have to remove a chip that is trimmed so close to the board, you can possibly solve that problem using these milled pin sockets. I tend to only use these milled pin sockets when I'm going to be leaving a chip in long term, because what happens is as you insert and remove chips, it wears out these holes, and they get looser and looser each time. So if you're normally, I would not have done this, but I would have put double wipe sockets soldered to the board on these two chips right here. You can't use 3 ZIF sockets because there's simply not enough space. So for these 2 chips, I put in regular sockets. I would have put in double wipes if I'd had them. I didn't, because those, when you're going to be inserting and removing chips more often, they tend to be more durable than the milled pin sockets, and also they're cheaper to replace if they do go bad. So if you insert a chip with gnarled legs and they end up ripping up one of the pins in the double wipe socket, it's much cheaper. Well, it is cheaper to replace the double wipes than it is to replace the milled pin. What else did I learn? I think that's about it. Now, if you remember from the first part of this video, I did have an ARM SID in here. I ended up taking this SID chip off of another board that has a lot of other missing chips already. Turns out this SID is perfectly functional. So I got back to an original SID. Other things I learned. I knew this already, but I learned the process of replacing a ROM. I thought one of the ROMs, the kernel ROM, was bad, and so I went ahead and built this board up. I had these little PCBs made up by PCBWay. They are, I don't know if you'll be able to see. There, folks. They are a C64 basic and kernel ROM replacement. So basically, they are a replacement for the 2364s that are in the basic and kernel ROM positions. They won't replace this particular board. There's other boards, but this particular board isn't designed to replace a 2332, which is what the character generator ROM is. But this was a simple little project to build up. You solder a socket, 3 resistors, and some pin headers to this little PCB, and then you program a 27256, or whichever ROM you have, 256, 512, 64, 128. I think all 4 will work in it. You program that on your little TL866 programmer, and then socket that and put it in. This ROM does work fine, but turns out the original ROM worked fine as well as soon as I put it in, as I said, one of those milled pin sockets so that it made good contact with the ZIF. Also, I thought at one point I had a problem with the PLA, so I replaced that with one of these cheap and easy to make GAL PLAs. This is, again, a project. You can have these little PCBs made on PCBWay, and you just then put it together, program your gals. Again, you can program these gals. These are 20V8 gals. You can get them pretty cheaply on AliExpress or sometimes on eBay. Program them in your EEPROM programmer and put it together, and it makes a decent PLA replacement. Now, if you happen to watch a fellow YouTuber named Captain Commodore, he's been running into some problems with these where the timings are off, and it seems to be with certain gal PLAs, or some of them possibly deteriorate over time. You can watch his channel and see what he's been looking at with these. There's another PLA replacement. Well, there are several other PLA replacements. There's the Plankton and PL Advanced and several others, but there's one that piqued my interest. I found it on the shared projects page on PCBWay, and I had the circuit boards made up for them. I'm waiting for another part. Those use a 256, well, they basically use a 64K kilobyte EEPROM or EEPROM or OTP EEPROM to replace the PLA. The PLA, if you think about it, is 16 inputs, 8 outputs. That's essentially a memory chip. So all you have to do is rewire some pins and program up one of those EEPROMs, as long as it's got the right timing. That's the only issue. Some of these timings have to be within, I think it's response time of less than 45 nanoseconds. So I have some W27C256 -45 EEPROMs on order from both AliExpress and from an eBay seller. Haven't received either of them yet, so I will be putting one of those together and taking a look at it and checking the timings and see if it performs as well as or better than any of the other PLA replacements that are out there. So look forward to a video on that coming up. But I did try one of these and it worked. At least it was able to boot. It was able to run the diagnostics. So that is what I learned, and let's take a quick look here, just so you believe me. And away we go. Well, interesting. Now I'm not getting anything on the screen, so my guess is one of these ROMs isn't seated very well. Try again. There we go. Yeah, as I said, these ROMs with the short legs are an issue. But when they're seated properly, we get Commodore Basic, and as I said, it passed the full diagnostics with the harness. So that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate a like. If you had a problem with the video, obviously you know what to do there. I would appreciate it if you're enjoying my content, that you subscribe to the channel and push the little notification bell. And I think that's everything. So thanks again. Everybody stay safe, be well, be healthy, enjoy your lives, and I'll see you next time.